Chapter 13, The Not-So-Great Escape. Journal entry, time and date, unknown. Location, unknown.
Come over here a minute, son. I need to have a talk with you.
My dad and I were in the middle of tossing the football in our front yard. It was one of the few moments I was able to connect with my father. He was constantly away on work trips. My dad told us he worked for a NASA outreach program. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, and he wasn't really able to tell us much about it. He had an extremely high security clearance. He once told us that his clearance was so high that there wasn't even a name for it. He used to joke that he could tell us what he did, but then he'd have to kill us. Some days I believed him. My dad was a man's man kind of guy. The strong, silent type, and I guess that's exactly what the government looked for in its secret employees. Emphasis on silent. His relationship to my mother was about the only thing that wasn't top secret. Even the neighbors were well-versed on the volatile nature of their marriage. No physical abuse, at least none that I knew of, just lots and lots of yelling. My brother Bill and I would often ride our bikes and meet up with my friend Dean at Suicide Ditch Jump, as the kids called it. SDJ, the abbreviated name we usually opted for, was located in an empty field a few miles down the road, and it provided us with respite from the constant arguing, along with some pretty skilled tabletop jumps. Dean and I were constantly trying to outdo each other, but my brother Bill didn't really have the skill or the desire to challenge us. We knew the more we focused on one-upping each other, the less we would focus on our problems at home. Usually by the time we would return home, my dad would be gone. My mother would be absent too, only mentally. She would lock herself in the bathroom for hours, boarding herself in and sleeping in the bathtub, surrounded by blankets and pillows, anything to subtract from the hardness of a fight. Only having one bathroom in our home definitely gave us more of a reason to stay out. As a result, we would get into all sorts of mischief, usually nothing worse than typical teenage stuff, although one time Bill got arrested for suspected grand larceny. That was a fun story to have to tell my mother, as she lay weeping in her bathtub bed. The majority of their arguments revolved around my father's job, and of course, his subsequent absence. I often wondered if he told her what he did. I think she may be the only one who truly knows. She also believed he was cheating on her, and perhaps he was. My mother and I never really saw eye to eye, and I left the first chance I had. When I turned 17, I moved into a small apartment with Dean. Bill would remain at home, where, as far as I know, he still is to this day.
You're old enough now, and, well, I think you should know.
My dad continued as he waved me into the garage. I rounded the corner of the garage and failed to catch a bottle of beer that was lobbed at me. Quick reflexes need not apply. The bottle smashed on the garage floor, surprisingly quiet.
Son of a bitch.
I instantly realized what I said.
Sorry.
My dad laughed. He looked young in that moment, and I never really saw him that way. To me, he was always old. Not old in the physical way. Perhaps wise was a better choice of words.
And we just got done throwing the football. Let's get you a replacement.
He turned around, opened the fridge, and chucked another one in my direction. This time I was sure to catch it. I went to grab the broom.
Leave it, and have a seat, son.
He said, motioning to a couple of bar stools leaning up against a crudely made bar that he had started years ago, but never finished. I was 15 at the time, and whatever he had to tell me, I thought I was ready for it. At 15, my hormones made me feel invincible. If there was something I didn't know, and I strongly doubted that, I could handle it. Sitting down, he began.
Someday, son, this is going to be important to you.
He tapped his finger against his temple.
Remember what I tell you here today. Think you can do that?
Yeah, Pops, of course.
I said, taking a swig of beer and trying to appear manly in front of him, also trying to pretend that I liked it.
What's up?
Look, I know you boys are curious about what it is I do, and while I can't tell you that, there's something important I need to let you know, Nate.
He quickly glanced behind to make sure the back door wasn't open. It wasn't. That not being enough, he quickly got up and hit a button, and the garage door came to life, screaming in pain as its metal limbs broke free from rigor mortis. With the fresh daylight gone, a set of automatic lights switched on. The garage transformed into a dim graveyard where once benign tools and car parts became silhouettes of mechanical bodies crawling back into the recesses. My dad sure knew how to set a mood. He sat back down and thought for a moment. He looked as though he was trying to convince himself this was a good idea.
Dad, what is it? You're freaking me out.
I took another swig, this time a much longer dousing of my throat. I barked and slapped him on the shoulder.
You're doing that weird, far-off trance look again. What's going on?
I was really starting to get nervous. Snapping out of it, he shook his head several times.
What? Yeah, sorry.
He met my eyes, took a drink of his beer, and started in.
Look, Nate, this is going to sound strange, and it is strange. It's not going to make a lot of sense to you right now, so just listen.
I nodded in agreement.
The world is not what it seems, Nate. There are things out there that aren't from here.
He said, pausing emphatically with each word.
Ooh, aliens.
I joked and spiraled my hands in a circular motion around my head. He quickly snatched one of my arms out of the air with a surprising strength and speed that made me flinch in pain.
What?
I reproached. I tried to pull my arm back, but he held fast.
There are things, Nate, that you need to understand.
His grip was getting tighter, and a look of fear scintillated in his eyes. His adult grip was stronger than I could have imagined.
Dad, stop. You're hurting my arm.
I complained. A new thought began to invade my memory. Like a snowdrift, it began overtaking this memory, whiting out the scene and closing in from the brim of my mind. The intruding thought was not of my father's grip around my wrist. It was of a more recent memory, a memory of Big Ugly's grip around my neck. Then everything stopped, and I heard someone screaming like the screech of rusty brakes against metal. It was me screaming. I violently screamed myself back into consciousness. Immediately, my throat was overcome by a noxious fume when I tried to pull fresh air into my lungs. I now realized I was no longer with my dad. It was just a dream, a memory, a vision. I was naked, cold, and laying in a pool of something wet. Considering the horrors of late, I imagined it might be my own blood. No longer restrained, I was able to get to my knees. Gravity was back, and for that small favor, I was grateful. It was pitch black except for a strange luminescence emanating from what I thought were walls. A low hum could be felt and heard, not only from the ship, but from within me, adding an evil dissonance to the macabre setting. If this was an alien ship, it looked nothing like how they were portrayed in all those sci-fi movies. Hollywood was always getting it wrong, and this was just another example. Then again, I knew that Hollywood could never truly capture the horror I was experiencing. I cautiously felt around my immediate surroundings. The floor or ceiling, depending upon the reality I was experiencing, was wet with a few inches of liquid. I was grateful I couldn't see what it was. The smell of it alone overwhelmed my senses. It smelled of decay and death, mixed with a smell of rotting vegetation, gasoline, and perhaps vomit. I couldn't stop myself from the coughing and gagging fits brought on by this septic atmosphere. I switched to breathing through my nose, and although the smell was no less abominable, it did dampen my urge to cough. I lightly patted my hand in a semicircle around me, looking for any physical clues. I felt something roll underneath my palm and stopped on it. I immediately jerked my arm backward and cautiously came back to it, tapping it lightly. It was as if the item were a hot pan, and I didn't want to burn my hand, slowly touching and then quickly pulling away until I was comfortable with the temperature of my fear. Eventually, I mustered the courage to feel its contours with my fingers. It was small, hard, and shaped like a half moon. Nothing good went through my mind as to what it could be. My natural curiosity was strong, and somehow that overcame my fear. I picked it up and tested its shape with both hands. It had 3 bulbs evenly spaced and ascending in size as I trolled my way up the digits. Digits? I said to myself. It's a human finger bone. Upon that revelation, I flung it away from me and jumped back, landing on my ass. A splash echoed as I landed. An echo, I thought. If sound was bouncing around and coming back to me, I was probably in an enclosed area, a jail of some sort perhaps. I sat there frozen, in fear of touching other disembodied human appendages. I remembered reaching into Leopold's cat tree to find that dead and decomposing bird. I was struck with the irony of my situation. I was that bird now, no more than a kill toy, broken, gashed, and terrified at what awaits me. If I survived this experience, it was certain to give me a new respect for life, in all forms.